Trying to stay warm.
Yeah, good luck with that, right? Well, I'm here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's like 50 degrees, so you can be a little jealous of me, I guess. Though it has been raining quite a while, and it's not snowing, though. Where to go first? Arkansas basketball. Let's get to basketball here. You were the first to ask Muss about his reasoning for why he ended up coaching the last game against South Carolina. A lot of it. We were all really surprised, but I guess when you think about it, and you think about Muss as a coach and what we know about him, it really isn't all that surprising that he decided to forego the pain pills, deal with the pain so that he could be on the bench, because I just don't think he likes being away from the team.
Yeah, I think ultimately as much pain as he's in with that shoulder, and he said it was basically like having a nail, in your shoulder. Even though the surgery obviously repairs the tears, it still takes time to recover. But I guess ultimately it's more painful for him to be away from the team and not coaching the team than it is to be, dealing with the shoulder pain. I say if it was me, I'd be popping those pain pills and, sleeping or doing whatever. I don't have a very high pain threshold. I don't think Eric obviously does. He coached several years ago with a torn Achilles, in his leg, when he was coaching the Venezuelan team. But I remember the release, and I always parse these words very carefully. I never wrote that he was going to miss at least 2 games. I wrote that he was expected to miss at least 2 games according to the news release, and I don't doubt that they were being as accurate as they could be. Eric said the other night, there was talk about missing anywhere from 2 to 6 games, So, but he clearly was tired after the game. I appreciate that he came in and talked to us. And it was funny when he sat down. If you'd have if I hadn't seen the game and somebody just said, "Well, judge if they won or lost based on the look on Eric's face when he comes in the presser," I would have thought they lost because he had a pained look on his face. I thought. And I kind of tried to listen to him. I said, "Hey, Eric, you guys won." Smile, and he did crack a smile. But I think that seriously speaks to how much pain he was feeling. And I appreciate the fact that he came in and talked to us. He didn't have to do that. But, I just like coaching the team. He probably wanted to come in and talk to us, and by that he did his post-game radio show. By that he's obviously connecting with the fans and the readers and the listeners and all that. But, I'm impressed that he came back as fast as he did because he came back, much sooner, I think, than reasonably could have been expected. He did get clearance from his doctor. He said, I don't know if the doctor, said, "Well, I don't think you should do this." And Eric said, "Well, I want to do it." And, I don't know exactly what those conversations are like. Obviously, those are privileged between the patient and the doctor, I guess. But, he came back a lot faster than anybody could have reasonably expected.
I mean, that arm seems pretty well immobilized. That is one of his fist-pumping arms. I think he uses both of them normally and couldn't get that one out in the last game. It's all a matter of pain tolerance, I guess, And, you've seen this look on his face of what it looks like to lose so often of late that now with these last 3 games, I can understand the feeling that you must have had. It's like, look at his face, like, oh, it's the same look. But he's got to be exhausted. But now this team is winning games, so hopefully that's a little boost for Muss, and it is for everybody else. And, there's been a little too much focus, I think, on their lack of three-point shooting, and the fact that you win a game without hitting one of them, to me, says that you can win games without shooting three-pointers. I know down the line they're going to need to hit 5, 6 in a game or something like that, but right now, I think we're just loving watching this team play defense and focus on their strengths, of which three-point shooting just isn't one of them.
Yeah, they've held their last 3 opponents to less than 60 points. That's very impressive in this day and age with the shot clock and the three-pointer. I know South Carolina's not an offensive juggernaut, but still, they held them to 6 of 27 in the second half. And just 1-3 when South Carolina shot threes pretty well. They locked that down in the second half. But they're playing real good defense. We can tell the strength of this team is taking the ball to the hole, driving, finishing at the rim, getting free throws. They hit 27 of 33 free throws. They're generally a good free throw shooting team. Jalen Williams had a great night shooting free throws, and he's obviously getting more involved offensively. He's always been a good rebounder, good passer. He's scored when it's there, but now he's looking, I think, to be more aggressive on offense, looking for a shot more, which I think is good to see. And, so this team's strength should be, defense, getting the ball inside, getting to the free throw line. I think that's their formula for winning. Obviously, they'd like to mix in some threes. But the fact they could beat an SEC team, I don't care who it is, by 16 without hitting the threes, pretty impressive. And, I know they held Missouri down. Missouri the other night won at Ole Miss by 25 and shot almost 63%. So, and the game before Arkansas, they shot about 50% and scored 92 points and beating Alabama. So I don't think you can just say, well, Missouri's not that good, South Carolina's not that good. I know they're not Kentucky and Auburn, but they're SEC teams, and they've shot well against other teams and not shot well against Arkansas. So I think that tells you there Arkansas is playing pretty good defense.
Yeah, and on the defensive side, the guy that's really emerged as being one of those defensive leaders, especially the way that he takes the charge, has been Jalen Williams, and almost been a double-double machine throughout this 3-game winning streak. And but Bob, do you think when it comes to as far as a little bit past halfway point here into the season, who's more important for this team to succeed? And I think there's really only two options. Is it J.D. Notae, or has it been what Jalen Williams has done of late?
Well, if I'm Arkansas, I'd hate to have to win without either of them. Obviously, they didn't win at Mississippi State without J.D. I don't know if they would have won with them. I think it would have been a lot more interesting game, but it was obvious how much they need those guys. They both were in foul trouble in the first half, and Arkansas fell behind by 7, and then they really led the 18-1 charge out of the locker room that got them control of the game. But that's a tough question, because one guy does so much for him inside, the other guy does so much for him, on the perimeter and driving the ball. I guess if I'm Arkansas, I don't want to play without either of them. But I think Jalen's probably playing a little bit better. But, he needs somebody to get the ball to him. And so I would say J.D. Notae right now is probably their most important player, but Jalen Williams is right there with him. Just because, J.D. Handles the ball more, has the ball in his hands more, and he also, he doesn't take a lot of charges like Jalen does, but he gets a lot of steals and, good on-the-ball defender. So I'd say J.D. is probably their most valuable guy right now, but I certainly wouldn't argue with anybody who said Jalen Williams.
Mm-hmm. And Bob, the biggest news of the day, obviously, with Kendall Briles choosing to stay as the offensive coordinator at University of Arkansas. Obviously, none of us are in his head or were in any of those talks or meetings that he could have had with family, agents, confidants, or anything like that. But how tough a decision do you think it really was for Kendall, especially with everything he's got coming back on the offensive side of the ball next year and a possible Heisman runner, of Heisman talented caliber guy in KJ Jefferson?
Yeah, unless Miami was throwing around just an incredible amount of money, I don't think it made much sense for him to leave Arkansas for Miami. And I'm not I haven't studied Miami's roster, but I do think in the long run it's probably easier for Miami, not easy, but easier for Miami to try to get to the playoffs through the ACC than it is for Arkansas to try to get there through the SEC, simply because the SEC is a lot better than the ACC, in my opinion. I know Clemson had a bit of an off year. I know Pitt had a good year, and Wake had a good year. But right now, for all the offensive weapons Arkansas has back with, you alluded to KJ Jefferson, the most important guy on the team, the quarterback who had a really, really good year and is set to have an even better one. And good running back room, a lot of guys back on the O-line. They obviously need to develop some new weapons at receiver, but I don't, unless Kendall Briles and his family don't like living here, unless there was something. I know he was at Florida Atlantic earlier in his career with Lane Kiffin, and Miami, in some ways can be a great place to live, but also, the cost of living is a lot higher down there. It's not like if you're working in Miami, you're going to be spending every day on the beach. So if his family was happy here, I don't know why it would have made sense to go to Miami right now. They're kind of in a rebuilding mode. Arkansas and going into Sam Pittman's third season looks like, they've got things going now, although certainly the SEC West is a bear. But, I wouldn't have understood him going to Miami, honestly, if it had happened.
Bob, we got bad news from Arkansas baseball just before the show started. Peyton Paulette will miss the upcoming season because of UCL tear. Will undergo Tommy John surgery. Now, I'm not asking you who's going to step into the role and how you think this affects the team, but I do think season-ending injuries, it's much better when it happens before the season. The lay of the land. It's like if you were going to be counting on Paulette for the first 5-6 weeks of the season and then he goes down, that's the kind of thing that can, kind of ruin a team as you try to build some momentum. So I'm trying to put a silver lining around it. It's an awful injury for Peyton, but for me, it does feel like something that this team might be able to absorb.
Well, yeah, if it was going to happen, they can have the surgery. I have no idea when he would have the surgery, but at least he can have the surgery and start the rehab process sooner. So that's good for him individually, as awful as an injury is. And obviously, it'd be a huge blow to any team because this guy was projected as a first-round draft pick, and he was going to be Arkansas's #1 starter. But Arkansas does have a lot of talent. They've got a veteran coaching staff. I think they'll figure things out. They have, Jackson Wiggins, a very ultra-talented guy, and on paper, he'd be probably next man up to be that Friday night starter. We don't know. They've got I know they brought in a lot of good freshman pitchers. You got some other, Connor Nolan, maybe this is an opportunity for him. He's a guy that's been an SEC starter for him. You hope he's healthy. This might be an opportunity for him. Like I said, they've got some veteran guys and some young guys, and they've got a really good coaching staff. So I think they'll figure it out. You really feel terrible for Peyton, obviously, and it's not good for the team. But I still think Arkansas can have a really good season, and certainly you hope the surgery goes well for Peyton and he can bounce back and get healthy.
Well, hopefully he will. Well, it'll take more than a year to get there, and we'll see if he's a Razorback or if he's already been drafted by then. Bob, appreciate you, man. Good luck staying warm, and we'll talk next week.
Okay, you guys take care.
Appreciate it, Bob.
Bob Holt from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette here on Halftime. Always appreciate him joining us on a Thursday. Hey, I want to remind you, they might be getting out soon to do some cold water bass fishing. Make sure you got the Umbrella Flash Mob Jr. with you. That's the best lure to duplicate a small school of shad. You can work it from the top of the water column to the bottom. You might be trying to win a bass tournament or just whoop up on a bunch of white bass and stripers. Make sure that you have the Umbrella Flash Mob Jr. It'll catch them. You'll find it at Walmart, Bass Pro Shops, Academy, LureNet.com, and tackle stores all over the place. The Umbrella Flash Mob Jr. Any comments, any thoughts, any questions? 877-377-6963. We're going to wrap the first hour up right after this.
BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile wagering to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's BLEAV. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.